Welcome to the science class. Today we are going to do a unit review about the unit number 9, which is about motion. So remember that when we talk about motion, we talk about the change in the position of an object. It means how this object changes from one place to another. In the case of objects, we find that we have different ways in which they move. We have a straight line, a curved path, back and forth, and around and around. So also inside of motion we have a type which is relative motion. When we talk about relative motion, we talk about the change in one object's position compared with another object's position. It means how we see moving an object. For us to determine if an object is moving, we have two characteristics. The frame of reference, which is like your point of view, how an object seems to move, and the reference point, which is the place or the object that we use to determine if an object is in motion. Now, for us to make an object moving, we had to use forces. So we are going to see how these forces affect the motion on objects and how we can make different movements with these objects. Forces affect objects. It means that we can make objects move or stop. For example, when a soccer player kicks a ball, this will make the object move and change the position of this object. So, due to the force applied by the soccer player, the soccer ball will move. So, when these forces are applied, we can create different types of movements in the objects. We can make them go faster or we can make them go slow. The other is that we can stop the movement of an object, and also we can change the direction of an object when we apply any force. So when we apply a force, objects must touch each other to affect their position. An example is the harder you push a swing, the higher and faster it will move. So all depends on the force that you apply and the contact that you have with the object to make it move. Now, we also have another type of force which is balance forces, which means that in an opposite directions, the same amount of force is applying. So we are trying to move an object from different directions, but in this case, it will not move because the force is being applied on both sides will make the object stay in the same place. So when we apply a force, depending on the amount, if it is too much or less, we can affect the object's position, speed, direction, or both at the same time. So we make it to move faster or to stop the motion, make it go slow, or even change the way that is going to move the object. Now we are going to see how forces and motion work together. We first must understand that force and mass are related. When we try to carry or push or apply any force into an object which has less mass, it's gonna be easy for us. But when we try to push an object which is heavier or which has more mass, it's going to take us more force to apply. So we can infer in this case that the more force is needed to change the position of an object or the motion of an object with more mass, which means more weight, more force. Force also works with gravity. Gravity is the force that pulls all the objects toward each other. So this force will make objects attract to each other. So in this case, also the mass of the object is going to take place because if an object is heavy than other, the force of gravity will make more effect. So more mass equals more gravity. Gravity and mass work together. Remember that gravity is the force that makes an object to fall to the ground. The earth applies its force, which is the biggest force that we have in terms of gravity, and that makes all the objects fall to the ground and stick to the ground and stay like that. If we don't have force, maybe objects will float away, and depending on the mass of the object, they will fall faster or slowly. So we have the correlation between mass and weight and how gravity affects these two characteristics of objects. The first thing is that mass is the measure of how much matter is in an object. So the mass of an object is always going to be the same. It's never going to change. But if we talk about weight, we talk about the measures on how strong the force of gravity is on an object. So the weight of an object is going to depend on the force of gravity where this object is. The weight of a person is not going to be the same in the moon as on the earth. Now, we are going to add another characteristic in the motion of objects, which is speed. When we talk about speed, we talk about the rate at which an object changes the position, how fast or slow these objects will move from one place to another place. So a clear example of how speed works, we can see it on animals. Many animals are faster than humans, which means that this characteristic allows them to move from one place to another. For us to calculate the average speed, we can divide the total distance with the total time of how this object moves. So in this case, we will find the speed in which an object moves from one place to another. A characteristic in speed we have is velocity. Velocity combines both the speed and the direction when an object is moving. So this is going to depend on how force is applied to make the objects move from one place to another. So when we talk about direction, we mean where this object is going to. So we found the north, the south, the east, the west, the left, the right, the up and down. The other characteristic in the change of the motion on an object, we found acceleration. Acceleration is any change in the speed or direction of an object's motion, which means, meanwhile an object is in motion, this is going to change the speed and direction. Now, you are ready for the test.